I've driven 300 miles and it still has 37% state of charge. This is gonna be a long night. I'm here today with the 2024 Lucid Air Grand Touring. This guy here is the longest range electric vehicle that you can buy in America today. It has an EPA rated range of 516 miles. So I'm at an Electrify America charging station. I just DC fast charged it for a little while, but now I moved my vehicle over to the AC charger because this site here in Bridgewater is always super busy. There's only 3 DC fast chargers. Only 2 of them are working. The third one is currently in service. There's a technician out here trying to get it to work. And there's 3 other vehicles waiting to charge, a Mercedes EQS, a Ford F-150 Lightning, and a Hyundai Ioniq 5. So I didn't want to hog the DC fast charger until it was charged to 100%. So I moved over to the AC charger. As soon as this guy's at 100%, I'm gonna hop inside her, get out onto the highway, and drive at a constant 70 miles an hour up and down the New Jersey Turnpike, as I always do with the 70-mile-an-hour highway range test, to see just how far the Lucid Air Grand Touring will go at a constant 70 miles an hour. All right, well, I'm out on the New Jersey Turnpike, cruising at 70 miles an hour. However, I have the Dream Drive set to 72 miles an hour. And that's because one of the things that I always do when I'm setting up the vehicles for range tests, and I set all the vehicles up the exact same way and I drive them on the same route here on the New Jersey Turnpike, one of the first things I do when I get in the car and start driving it is check the speedometer against, I have a couple of GPS apps, and quite frequently the vehicle speedometer is off a little bit. So I had to set the Lucid at 72 miles an hour to get a true 70 miles an hour. 2 years ago, did the range test on the Lucid Dream Edition range, and that was the same thing. I had to set it a couple miles an hour faster. So we're set at 72 miles an hour, but we're actually going 70 miles an hour. That's just one of the things I do. I always set the heating and cooling at either 68 or 70 degrees, depending on what temperature I need to make me comfortable in that car. I have the air set at 70 degrees and on fan setting number 3, so it's just enough to keep me cool. It's 81 degrees out currently. It's gonna cool off as this range test goes on, because it's gonna be a long range test. I am not looking forward to this, which we'll get into a little bit later. I also always check the tire pressure, and I set it to the factory specifications. We're all set there. I checked the temperature. I mentioned it's around 80 degrees now. It's going to cool down a little bit. I have a wind app where I check the wind. Right now we're getting a 5-mile-an-hour wind, which is coming from the cross. It's almost like it's almost like a headwind in the direction we're going in now, but not quite. But 5 miles an hour really isn't much. And I drive up and down the New Jersey Turnpike and in these long loops. I'm going to do like 80-mile loops today with the Air, and that's because I want to start and stop at roughly the same position to offset any possible elevation change. And the New Jersey Turnpike is relatively flat. There's not a lot of elevation change here, so it's a good road for range tests. Now, one of the things I had to really think hard about with the Air is the fact that it goes so far. I couldn't do a range test in the middle of the day. When I do my range tests, I usually start right after rush hour in the morning, and I'm done before the evening rush hour. But Lucid's vehicles go so far, I'm gonna be in this car at least 7 hours. I can't avoid a rush hour. So what I did was I waited until the evening rush hour was over. And I'm driving now. I'm gonna be driving deep into the night with this range test. I'm not looking forward to it. That's what I'm talking about. While it's wonderful driving a Lucid Air, 7 hours, driving it to nowhere in long circles, trust me, isn't fun. So, okay, well, we're out there driving now. I'm gonna check in probably before the first stop to talk a little bit more about the Lucid Air, but then I'll be stopping at 75% state of charge, 50% state of charge, 25% state of charge, and at the end. And what I mean by stopping, I don't mean stopping, I mean recording video. I'm gonna keep going. The only thing that would make me possibly stop is if I have to do a restroom break. The turnpike has rest stops right off the turnpike, so I'd literally be pulling off the highway, parking, shutting the vehicle down, and then getting on and continuing. So if I have to do that at some point in the next 7 hours, it shouldn't really affect the range test. Okay, I'll check back in a little bit, and we'll chat a little bit more about the Lucid Air. So I mentioned earlier that this is the longest range electric vehicle you can buy in North America, which is true. The Lucid Air Grand Touring has the longest range. This vehicle in this spec is rated at 516 miles per charge. That's the combined EPA range rating. We don't typically go that far when we do a 70-mile-an-hour range test, because the EPA range rating is a combined range test between city and highway driving. Some EVs actually do meet or exceed their EPA range rating. Most don't. Most fall a little bit short on it when I do these 70-mile-an-hour dedicated highway range tests. But to get the 516 miles out of the Lucid Air Grand Touring, you need to have it with the 19-inch aero wheels, which I have spec'd on this vehicle. If you ordered it with the 20-inch wheels, the EPA range rating is 485 miles. If you ordered it with the 21-inch wheels, it drops down to 450 miles. So you have a 66-mile penalty on the same car between the 19-inch aero wheels and the 21-inch sport wheels. So I don't know if I were you, I'd get these 19-inch aero wheels. I don't think you really lose much in the styling. They look pretty cool, and the tires probably cost a lot less if and when you have to replace them. So that's it with as far as the range goes for this Lucid Air. As far as the battery, it has a 118 kilowatt hour battery pack. And that's for the Grand Touring and Sapphire models for the Lucid Air. If you just get the Touring, that has a 92 kilowatt hour battery pack. And then the entry level Air Pure currently has an 88 kilowatt hour battery pack. But Lucid is going to be reducing that to 84 kilowatt hours for the 2025 model year. The Pure starts at under $80,000. And this Grand Touring that I'm in now, a spec, costs it's right around $110,000. It's $109,900. So it's an expensive vehicle, but for that you do get a lot. It's definitely a high-end premium vehicle. And as I said, if range is your thing, you can't do better than this. No battery electric vehicle goes farther than the Lucid Air Grand Touring with the 19-inch wheels that's sold in North America. Okay, well, we're going to check back in when I'm at 75% state of charge. We'll talk a little bit about how far I've gone at that point. Checking in at 75% state of charge, so 25% of the range test is up. We've gone 116.7 miles and used, according to Lucid, 27 kilowatt hour of energy. Now, Lucid claims the pack is 118 kilowatt hours usable, so I would expect to get about 29 kilowatt hours per 25% segment. We were only able to get 27 out of it for the first 25%, but that could change in the other quarters of the test. When I did my Dream Edition range test, it did change. So, and I think I remember the first quarter, I went the shortest distance. So 116.7 miles, 27 kilowatt hours used, and I have a consumption rating of 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is exactly what I ended that first range test with, 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour. So this Air that I'm driving here today seems to be as efficient, consumption-wise at least, as the Dream Edition range I drove 2 years ago in that range test. Okay, so before I check out, there's one thing I want to mention that I think I forgot to mention in the earlier clip. I was talking about how I set up the vehicles. I don't think I mentioned that I always put it in the most efficient drive mode. And in the Air, that's smooth. There's smooth, swift, and sprint. Those are the 3 drive modes. Smooth is the most efficient, and I always put the vehicles in the most efficient or eco drive mode that the vehicle has. So I just wanted to make sure I noted that. Now the temperature is down to 78 degrees, which isn't bad. It's already getting dark here in New Jersey. I think the next couple of check-ins, it's going to be, well, I know the next couple of check-ins, it's going to be pitch black because it's going to be in the evening. So hopefully this little dome light I have here seems to be working okay with this video. I was concerned that it wasn't going to be bright enough when I did this at night. So all right, we'll check back in at 50% state of charge, and all I could say at this point is, man, this thing goes far. This is crazy, you know, that 117 miles and I'm still at 75% state of charge. My first electric vehicles that I drove years ago didn't even go 117 miles per charge for the whole battery. So we've come a long way. The Lucid Air is a model of efficiency. It's an amazing vehicle, and honestly, every time I get in these and drive them, whenever Lucid loans me one or I borrow one from a friend, I feel like I'm tempted to get one. And one thing about my job is I get to drive all the electric vehicles, and I like so many of them. There's many that I would consider buying, but there's 2 electric vehicles that every time I get in them, I feel compelled to say, well, maybe I'll sell the Rivian or the Lightning and get one of these because I like it so much. And those 2 vehicles are the Lucid Air and also the Porsche Taycan. Those are the 2 electric vehicles that every time I get in them and drive them, I'm like, why don't I own one of these? They're such great vehicles. This is such a smooth driving, pleasant cabin, comfortable, premium appointments on the inside. It's such a great electric vehicle. And then you have this ridiculous efficiency and long driving range to boot. So I have to commend Lucid. It's a fantastic vehicle that they built here, and I haven't even driven the Sapphire yet. Hopefully I'll get a chance to drive that at some point soon. But I mean, this Grand Touring is a fantastic vehicle, and it makes me really consider getting one of these. All right, well, check back in when the range test is half over, and I should be somewhere around, let's see, 230-ish miles, 230, 235. If we're staying on the same course, it'd be great if we're up closer to 250, because that means we might get close to 500 miles, but we're not tracking that. Right now we're tracking about 460, 465 miles total. But that changes during the range tests. It always does, and I'm sure it will on this one. Okay, see you at 50%. State of Charge is powered by Qmerit. After I've helped you decide which electric vehicle charging equipment you're going to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and let the EV charging installation professionals at Qmerit install it. So we're at the halfway point at 50% state of charge, and we have gone 235 miles. So we're tracking now 270 miles. That's pretty impressive. In that segment, we used 28 kilowatt hour. At least that's what the car is telling us we used. So we've used a total of 55 kilowatt hours so far. And in that segment, we went 118.7 miles, 2 miles further than what we did from 100% down to 75%. So we're tracking good. Our overall consumption is still 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour, but it's starting to get a little bit cooler out. And I also noticed the wind is picking up a little. It's now 7 miles an hour. And on the next leg, I think a lot of the driving is going to be with the wind facing us. So it's going to be a headwind. So that might mess with our consumption a little bit. So we'll see. I'll check back in when we are at 25% state of charge and nearly done. Hopefully I'll stay awake because it's getting late, getting tired, but I knew this was going to be a bear. As much as I love the Lucid Air, I don't look forward to the range tests because they just go on forever. All right, check back in at 25% state of charge. So I'm at the final check-in before we end the range test at 25% state of charge. And we have gone 350 miles. That is crazy. That is longer than the driving range of just about any other electric vehicle, and we still have 25% of the battery left. So in that leg, we only went 114.3 miles. We've used 83 kilowatt hour now. Again, we used 28 in that segment. So it was 27 in the first, 28 and then 28. And again, that's what the vehicle is reading. It's not an exact science. It's very close to what it is, but it's not perfect. And we also have the consumption has gone way up. We're only getting 4 miles per kilowatt hour in that segment, from 50% down to 25%. And that's lowered our overall consumption to 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. I mentioned in our last check-in that the wind picked up a little bit and it's cooler now. It's down in the high 60s. For the first half of the test, it was in the low 80s and high 70s. But now that it's getting pretty late into the evening, the temperature's dropped, and it's dropping quickly. So we're at around 67 degrees, and I think that and the wind is cutting into our consumption. All right, well, that's it. Hopefully we're gonna make it, because I'm really cutting it close with the with the estimated range left and the distance to the charging station. But I think we'll make it. I seem to usually pull it out of my hat, except for the Chevy Bolt EV range test, when I actually ran out about 1.5 miles from the Electrify America charging station. Hopefully that's not gonna happen here today. We'll check back in, hopefully at the charging station, to do the wrap up. All right, guys, quick update. I'm at 420 miles. I've got 40 miles to go to get to the Electrify America charging station, and the car's now telling me I have insufficient range, that we will not make it. We're at 9% state of charge. So if I continue with the consumption rate that we've been following so far, we won't make it. We'll end up about 5 miles shy. So stay tuned. This could be a very interesting night. Well, it's actually morning now. It's 1:30. So this might be an interesting evening, well, morning. So we'll check back in when I'm either dead on the side of the road or pulling into the charging station. All right, so I think I'm gonna make it. I'm a mile away. We've been at 0% state of charge now for like 2 miles. I'm at 462.7 miles driven, and I'm on a back road. I had to take a slightly different route off the highway to get to the Supercharger, the Electrify America. I'm punch drunk now, it's very late. To get to the charging station, the shortest distance, because the car is giving me all the battery critically low warnings. It's saying I'm not gonna make it. So there was a shorter back route. So for the last mile or so, I've only been driving 35 miles an hour. I've been in reduced power mode now for like 7 miles, but I think we're gonna make it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think as soon as I go through this light, the Electrify America stations at a Walmart should be on the left. I believe that's correct. Let me see as I get closer. Yes. All right, so I mean, if I don't make it now, I'm gonna be short by feet, not even 1/4 mile. I'm probably like 1/10 of a mile, well, maybe 2/10 of a mile from the site. I'm at a red light. Battery critically low. We've gone 463.2 miles. It looks like we're gonna make it, but that last 5 miles was white knuckle. I think partially aided by the fact that it's like 2 a.m. And if I did run out, I'd have to call Meredith. And we live like 45 minutes away, and she has to work tomorrow. And I had the lightning already. Okay, the light's green, so let me go. Yeah, it's super spongy. I mean, it's almost floored, and it's barely getting to 26, 27 miles an hour. So I think that's all we've got left in the tank here. And let me see, where's the entrance here? And there's 10, there's 10 Electrify America charging stations. And of course, there's one person at the 350 kilowatt station that works. Oh, no, he's not. He's at the next one. Excellent. So we made it. let me roll into this station here and we'll check out what the final stats are. Of course, it's an ID4. They're everywhere. All right, let me roll in here. Okay. Park. That was almost 7 hours of driving. I think it was like, looks like it was 6 hours and 47 minutes or 48 minutes. All right, final stats. Let me take a picture of this before I forget to. And final stats here are 463.4 miles driven. We used 111 kilowatt hour. Surprising, because this is supposed to have a usable capacity of 118. But it isn't a brand new car. I mean, it's practically brand new. It only has 3,000 miles on it. But it's only showing 111 kilowatt hours used. Our final consumption is 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour, 27 kilowatt hour. And it's weird. When I pulled in, it said 28, but now it says that I used 27. So if there's much left in the tank, it's not much because we're in reduced power mode, and you know, the whole throttle response was very squishy. So I don't think it had more than a couple miles left in it at this point. But listen, 463.4 miles is nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah, it didn't hit the 516, which is the EPA rated range, but you know, most electric vehicles don't hit their EPA rated range on a highway range test. That's a combined range of city and highway driving. So it's still 463 miles at 70 miles an hour is still better than any other electric vehicle that's sold in North America today can do. Maybe even in the world. I don't know if there's any production EVs in China that can drive further than that at 70 miles an hour. But Lucid's got something special going on there. They're very, very, very efficient. They're laser focused on efficiency. 463 miles on 111 kilowatt hour. You know, that's, I mean, the Mercedes EQS, for instance, has 109 kilowatt hour battery, I think 108.9 or something like that. And that's not going to get anywhere near 463 miles of range. Tesla Model S long range has 100 kilowatt hour battery pack. When I did my range test with that, I got, no, actually I did it with the Plaid. I didn't do a long range yet, but I've seen other people do the long ranges and they don't get more than 400 miles. So this is absolutely the range king. This is the longest range electric vehicle available today. And Lucid's got to get some credit for that. It's an expensive vehicle, but they're also, it's not like they just put an enormous battery in it and killed it with kilowatt hour like GM does with their, some of the Ultium packs, the Silverado EV and the Hummer EV, 200 kilowatt hour battery pack. No, this is doing 463 miles with 111 kilowatt hour, which is pretty damn good. I'm going to do a wrap up. I'm really beat. I'm going to plug this in, charge it, and then get home. I'm going to do a wrap up tomorrow at my house. We'll take a closer look at the stats and everything. But for now, that's it for the actual range test. We'll do a summary tomorrow, and we'll see just how good or bad that the vehicle did. And we'll compare it to some of the other long range electric vehicles. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow when I do the wrap up. All right, well, I'm back home. I got a couple hours of sleep. I didn't get in until about 4:30, I think, in the morning. I knew what I was getting into with the Lucid Air. Those things just drive forever, and it's just impossible to do a range test in between the morning and evening rush hours. So I had to do it overnight. And it didn't disappoint. 463 miles is amazing. The longest range electric vehicle you could buy today. So let's take a quick look at the numbers on each quarter of the range test. So from fully charged down to 75% state of charge, I drove 116.7 miles. And I used 27 kilowatt hours to do that. My consumption rate was 4.3 miles per kilowatt at the time. And then from 75% state of charge down to 50% state of charge, I drove 118.7 miles, so 2 more miles. And our total miles at the time was 235.6 miles. And for that segment, The car is telling us we used 28 kilowatt hour, a little bit more, bringing the total number of kilowatt hour used to 55. And we were still averaging 4.3 miles per kilowatt hour. But at this point now, it was starting to get late at night. It was getting close to midnight. The temperature dropped, as I noted in the video, and the wind picked up a little bit. So we started to be a little less efficient at this point. And then from 50% down to 25%, we finished up with 350 miles, meaning we drove 114.3 miles in that segment. For the total kilowatt hours used at this point now is 83, and the car was telling us we used 28 kilowatt hour for that segment. However, our consumption was the worst in that leg. We only averaged 4 miles per kilowatt hour, and now our overall consumption had dropped down to 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. Okay, and then from 25% down to zero, actually below zero, I drove a little bit below zero, we went 113.3 miles, giving us our final total of 463.4 miles. The total amount of kilowatt hour used was 111. Now, that's shy of the 118 that Lucid says is available for the Grand Touring. And in that segment, as I noted, it said 28 when I rolled up to the Electrify America charging station, but then it changed to 27. However, if you remember, at 50% state of charge, the car said that we had used 83 kilowatt hour. If you add 28 to that, you get 111, not 27. So I have a feeling it's something to do with rounding up and down. It might have been 27.5 kilowatt hour, something like that. But the total used was 111. And in that leg, our consumption rate was 4.1 miles per kilowatt hour, a little bit better than the last leg, but not as good as the first half of the trip. And we did finish up with 4.2 miles per kilowatt hour. That's still an incredible efficiency number for a large, powerful sedan like the Lucid Air. Okay, so how good is 463 miles on a 70 mile an hour range test? Well, as I noted, it's probably the best that any electric vehicle can do. And I've driven a whole bunch of electric vehicles. I've range tested, most of the vehicles out there, not all of them, but most of them. The closest I've come to this was the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus, which I finished up with 395 miles of range in a 70 mile an hour highway range test on the same course that I drove this. So the Mercedes is good. It does great, has fantastic range, but it's not nearly as efficient as the Lucid Air. So let's take a quick look at the numbers for the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus. Okay, so I got this from the EPA website. This is the 2024 Mercedes-Benz EQS 450 Plus, like the one I range tested. As you can see at the bottom, it's EPA certified for 352 miles of range. So that is one of the vehicles that actually exceeded its EPA range rating on my 70 mile an hour highway range test. That doesn't happen often, but it does happen. What I want to take a look at closely is the efficiency numbers here. The EPA range rating shows that it uses 35 kilowatt hour per 100 miles. That's not very efficient at all. I obviously did better in my range test, but 35 kilowatt hour per 100 miles is pedestrian at best as far as being an efficient electric vehicle. Now let's take a quick look at the Lucid Air Grand Touring with the 19-inch wheels that I just range tested. If you could see on their EPA documents, it's range rated at 516 miles of total range, but take a look at the efficiency number, 26 kilowatt hour per 100 miles. Remember that Mercedes EQS was 35. That's a huge difference. And the Lucid Air did deliver in this range test on those numbers. I finished up with 463 miles. So if you calculate that to how many kilowatt hours per 100 miles, that comes out to 24 kilowatt hour per 100 miles. Well, you'll say, well, Tom, you beat the EPA documents. I really didn't, because the EPA documents include charging losses. So you have to account for about 10% losses when you're charging your vehicle. So if you add 10% onto the 24, you're going to add another 2.4. So that would give you 26.4 kilowatt hour per 100 miles. So I basically proved this EPA documents as far as efficiency in my 70 mile an hour highway range test. And one last car that I would be remiss if I didn't mention here is a long-range, high-performance sedan would be the Tesla Model S. So let's take a look at the EPA docs for the Model S long range. Okay, so you can see here that the Tesla Model S long range, their efficiency numbers is almost as good as the Lucid Airs. The EPA docs show 28 kilowatt hour per 100 miles, whereas the Lucid Airs was 26. Still much better than the Mercedes EQS. And that's range rated at 402 miles. That's the combined EPA range rating, of course. Now, I've never done a 70 mile an hour highway range test with the Tesla Model S long range. I have done one with the Tesla Model S Plaid, but that's a different beast. And I finished up with 300 miles of range. I'm pretty confident that the Tesla Model S long range with the smaller wheels, the aero wheel covers, not the bigger wheels, it's going to finish up somewhere around 350 to 370 miles if it was done in similar conditions to the range test I did today. There's some other people out on YouTube that have done range tests with them, so you could kind of see where it's going to finish up with. I certainly don't believe it would beat the Mercedes EQS. It definitely wouldn't beat the Lucid Air Grand Touring that I just did. That is absolutely the range king. I know I've said range king about 100 times in this video, but it's true. Lucid deserves a lot of credit. They put out an extraordinarily efficient premium vehicle. It's my favorite vehicle in this segment, but the Lucid Air Grand Touring is an expensive vehicle. It starts at $109,900, more than both the Mercedes EQS 450 Plus and a lot more than the Tesla Model S long range. The Mercedes starts at, I think, around $105,000. The Tesla Model S long range starts at about $75,000. So it's much more than the Tesla Model S. However, Lucid does offer lower trims. The Grand Touring is one of the top trims. Now they have the Sapphire, which is even higher trim than the Grand Touring. But Lucid offers the vehicle in the Touring, which is a lower, less expensive trim than the Grand Touring, and also the Base Pure, which is a rear-wheel drive version, and that starts at $69,900, less than a Tesla Model S long range. Now, the EPA range rating for that is only about 419 miles. I say only. It's almost 100 miles less than the Grand Touring, but still it's more than 400 miles EPA range rating, which is amazing. That might be the play right there, the Lucid Pure. If you don't need all-wheel drive, you get that, and it starts at under $70,000. You get a Lucid Air for a pretty good price. Well, that's it for our Lucid Air Grand Touring 70 mile an hour highway range test. Let us know what you think about it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.